So, let's talk about the last few days because I think it's important. So, some of my friends know that Bethany has ended up in hospital again. She has Crohn's, and she's actually lasted quite a long time without ended up in hospital. But over the last few days, there must have been some sort of trigger that caused a flare up, and so so she is in there again, and the experience of the local A&E has just been something else. But to backtrack a bit before that, so the 111 system is just not working in the UK. So you phone this automated system up to get help, and it passes you round every housing block, that you have to go around to actually speak to a real person. It's incredibly... I think they've actually done it on purpose, because if you had anything seriously wrong with you, like you had heart pain or something, by the time you got to speak to a real person, you'd actually be dead. You wouldn't be speaking. And it seems quite deliberate, really, because, it just... Honestly, it just passes you from one thing to another, and it takes so long to actually speak to somebody that, yeah, many people, if they seriously had something wrong with them, won't make it to the real person. So an utter failing of the system, this 111. When you do speak to somebody, you have to go through everything before they actually decide whether they're going to put you through to talk to an out of hours doctor. And then it won't be straight away. They phone you back. You don't get put through to that. And it's crazy. It's absolutely abysmal that sick people have to go this route now. And I have to be careful what I say, because YouTube and Facebook are not past deleting my videos and taking them down because they don't like what I have to say about things. So yeah, they took a previous video down, and so I have to be careful with the words that I use now, because some of you, well, I've probably got people sat on, watching me actually that are, little haters there that are ready to flag me up anyway. But nevertheless, what I say is the truth about what's going on. Whether they like it or not, whether they're little deniers sat in, denial, the little puddle of denial, because they have swallowed the narrative themselves, well, that's up to them. But, what I say and what I speak is the truth on this. So, and it is also, I speak as a witness as well to the way things are, if you like. So, we actually bypassed the 111 thing in the end, and I actually got her in a car and took her to the local A&E, where the hellish journey actually began. So A&E was quite full with people. I think it had, for the local one, something like ridiculous, like over 9 hours waiting time to see a doctor. Unacceptable, crazy. I struggle to find the words, because there are many very ill people around, and well, you'll understand why it's so shocking as I go on. But so anyway, I booked her in, and we had to sit in the waiting room along with a lot of other people, and her medical condition is already known to them. It's not like it's a mystery or anything like that. She's known to the medical people as having having Crohn's disease. So Anyway, we saw a triage of nurses after a while, and they decided that she would need to stay in and that she needed to see a doctor. So we had to wait another however long it was, and it was a long time before we actually saw. I mean, it was over a couple of hours, I think, before, as far as I can remember, before we actually saw a doctor. His bedside manner needed a lot to be desired. He needed polishing up somewhat. His bedside manner wasn't very good at all. And by then, neither was mine, to be quite honest. So, for a start, it was very difficult to understand what you're saying, okay, because of his accent, and it was really like wading through treacle, because he had a foreign accent, and it was really hard to understand what he was asking. So that was the first sort of brick wall there. Anyway, I managed to, after a few times of asking him to repeat the same word, and both of us getting a bit sort of fed up with it, I managed to get what he was saying, and he said that she'd have to stay in and see more doctors. So it's just a bit like 111, getting handed around the bushes again. Oh, round we go, round and round. And so back to the waiting room after having blood tests done and stuff, for another however long it was before they brought her through into the A&E wards. And I have to say, this was the couple of days and a full night of having a taste of what hell would be really like on earth. There's no other way to describe it. It was a small flavour of hell in there. So we went through, and all the cubicles were full in A&E, and the corridors around the cubicles had trolleys on with people on them. So because the cubicles were full, they parked people in the corridors, head to foot, sort of with no space. And that's what it was like. They were all lined along the walls in A&E, and the cubicles were full too. And it was bedlam. They were short-staffed. They had temporary staff in, or bank staff, I think you call them. There was seriously ill people in there with many heart conditions, unusual amount, so get what I'm saying here, without me trying to spell it out to you all. Unusual amount of people in A&E all together at the same time with heart problems. Not only older, but younger people. Understand what I'm trying to tell you without this being taken down. Ignore the dog barking in the background. That's my old girl there in the room. What was going to say? So the resource alarm was going off all the time in there, as they had to go and resource people, basically, because the wards were full, and there were no beds in the wards, so that's why they were all lined up in A&E, and these people weren't even being properly seriously looked at, by doctors, so they were, obviously they were being given painkillers and stuff like that, but because they were not on wards and not being looked at properly by doctors, obviously the root cause of what they had was not being dealt with quickly, and so they were just pumped full of painkillers, and people were just crashing. They were just crashing all around, and there were people in cubicles that were more seriously ill, crying out, in pain, sort of thing. And when my husband had taken over for one period of time to look, stay with our daughter, there was a call out, and they took somebody to resource on a trolley past them, with a nurse actually on the trolley doing, the heart stuff as they went, trying to keep his heart going. She was actually sat on the trolley with him. It's crazy stuff, and they watched that go past, and it was just like a little taster of hell on earth. There's nothing else I can say about it. There was two types of workers in there, two types of staff. They either didn't care at all and ignored people and walked past. That's not my patient, nothing to do with me, if somebody asked them something. Or they did care and tried to get help for people. There was didn't seem to be any middle ground in all of that. They either didn't care or they still cared, very little in between. The ones that didn't care, I have to say, sadly, outweighed the ones that did. And there was a lot of ignoring of people going on and turning a blind eye to those that were in pain and stuff. Absolutely atrocious, horrendous. And they can make every excuse under the sun, saying, well, they're short-staffed. It makes no difference if, the thing is, people were in a lot of pain, and there were people with serious life-threatening conditions in there. And, basically a lot of neglect going on. And you can't, they might, you can make every excuse saying short-staffed, whatever they like, but it's no excuse. There's no excuse for actually doing that and treating people in that way and ignoring people. And not all of the staff did that, but a fair amount did, because I was watching very closely what was going on. So my daughter arrived there at 9:30 at night. She was in the corridors with a lot of other people on trolleys all that night, all the next day as well, into the next night before they actually, all the next night. So she was in there all that night, all the next day. And was it all the next night? Oh, it's coming into the next night before they actually moved her onto the ward. It's all a blur now. But people were in the corridor basically for days. And because they said they had no beds on the wards. But because they were in the corridors at A&E, they weren't getting treated, properly. And people were dying, and it was an abysmal, horrible mess. Not only that, but it was dark, so it had a sinister sort of air to it as well. when I say it's dark, I don't mean it was dark as in no lights. I mean spiritually dark. Like I say, is a sliver of hell on earth. And funnily enough, though, I did spot another Christian, and she spotted me. I don't know her, but I sort of looked at her, and she looked at me, and you just know each other, that you belong to the Lord. And I didn't even get a chance to talk to her. She was an older lady, but I just knew she was, and I think she knew that I was too. I mean, I didn't recognise her, I didn't know her, but I just knew she was, and she was in with her husband, and he was seriously ill as well. And she kept looking over at Bethany, and yeah. And on the way out was she actually came up to Bethany and said she'd pray for her and gave her sort of little hug and stuff. So yeah, there were, I think, a couple of other Christians in the place. But one of the amazing things that I think stands out from that I'll always remember is Bethy went to the ladies' room, and she did look ill, actually. She didn't look very well, but when she came out of there and she was walking back towards me, she's lost over a stone, so she's quite thin now as well. But I just looked at her, and she looked quite tall at that point, and she's not that tall, Beth, but she looked tall walking back. She looked taller than those around her, and she looked just like something out of Lord of the Rings, one of the elves, like Galadriel. I don't know if you know that the elves were the ones that were the good ones, the ones that had this shining, shining sort of aura around them. They glowed, they gave out light. And, it's exactly what she looked like as she walked back towards me, even though she was ill and stuff. She just looked like Galadriel out of Lord of the Rings or something, walking through a very dark, depressing, horrible nightmare of the place, And it was quite a picture watching her just come back. Quite a thing, really. It's almost like you could see the light of Christ in her at that moment in time, So yeah, that was noted. Yeah, it was just a terrible place, horrible experience. Potential huge mistake was nearly made, but Bethany was smart enough to actually pull them up on it, and I'd actually used that a bit on the doctors to let them know that we weren't actually idiots, but were quite clued up about stuff. And if the thing is, if they know that you're not actually idiots in the place, and they actually take you more seriously, and they're more careful themselves. So yeah, if not good at all. So I recommend, if you ever heading towards one of these local A&Es near you, just stay with the person and watch them like a hawk, and fight the corner for them, for goodness sake, because it's one huge, dark, horrible mess, and it's caving in, obviously. The whole thing's caving in, the whole system is coming down, and quite deliberately, I would say, as well. The enemy within, being destroyed from the top down, definitely so. Of course, being my age that I am, I've been in hospital a few times, and here and there. This is something else. This is very different. This, I haven't, the level of chaos and turmoil I haven't seen before, ever. I went in 2020 with Beth as well, and that was difficult getting in at that point because of what going on. But the place was basically empty at that point in time. The doctors were sat round doing nothing, really. There was hardly anybody in, in 2020. And they were saying it was a complete and utter lie. The hospitals were not full at all. Totally different ball game today. They are full of really, really sick people. Like I say, a massive amount with heart problems. Never seen that before altogether. Younger, older, so they are stretched to the limit, totally understaffed because of what the government's been doing with the dictating of everything. And this stuff, and you know what I'm talking about with the whats that have been used recently, seems to all be kicking in big time now, as people have a variety of stuff breaking out in their bodies, and becoming sick in so many different ways. And it's not normal, it's not usual to see this amount of people going down at the same time, with and being in blood disorders. Oh my goodness, the amount of blood disorders was off a scale, I think, because I was listening closely to things and picking up on stuff, and just listen to conversations outside between people, and blood disorders, crazy stuff going on. Anyway, Beth's on a ward now, and she is being treated, and we are carefully watching everything. But I feel like I've been 10 rounds with Mike Tyson, and I did not lose my cool with them in there, and was careful too. I mean, it was very trying, because you're watching your child, here, and them just walking past while she's in enormous amounts of pain and not actually doing anything about it. But I collared one doctor, and he actually graciously, helped by giving her morphine, prescribing morphine. But I mean, I had to go and collar somebody and actually, face them and actually go into, what are you there for, what are you doing in here, sort of thing, But I didn't do it I didn't do it in a nasty way. I actually, did it in a right way. Challenged them in a way, but not in the wrong way. And he was very gracious, actually, this young doctor, and he he actually prescribed some strong painkillers for it, and that actually got her out of the agony that she was in at one point. So there were some good ones, good gems in there, but they were far outweighed by the ones that couldn't give a stuff, basically, which is very sad. So I don't think that our NHS is going to survive this for much longer, and I think that's all part of their plans, to be quite honest. They want to bring it down, and it's basically on the way down. Sad but true. Where do we go from here? Sick people need treating. I hope doctors actually come out of this and form something else that's going to help people, because you can't leave people to suffer as was happening in this instance. It's not right. It's not right, and something needs to happen. Doctors need to. Don't talk to me about GPs. They are sat on their backsides at home doing absolutely nothing. I'm talking about doctors in the hospitals. They need to have a real deep think about things, and they need to come together and think about other ways of raising an alternative really to the NHS and using their skills elsewhere, because people need their skills. They need they need them. They need that. They need doctors and everything like that. They need pain relief. They need that. But they're not. They can't be neglected like they are in the NHS and left in corridors and stuff to suffer away. And like I say, it was a glimpse of hell. People are going to suffer eternally in hell. And I was just sat there thinking, I can just catch a glimpse of what eternal hell's like, and people are going to be in hell like this all the time. No escape. No escape from the suffering. No escape. No pain relief. No nothing. But you will be left in it for all eternity to suffer, and it really came home to me actually, that really came home to me. They suffer here like this, and it says about gnashing, grinding of teeth in hell, and I thought, this is just a tiny taster of what's eternally in store for some people, and they do not know it. They don't know it. They don't know what lies ahead of them. And the church needs a jolly good kick in the behind, to actually, to get that gospel out and make people aware of where they're heading if they don't actually repent and turn to Christ. Thankfully, the peace of God was with us. Jesus was keeping us in that place of peace, even though the turmoil was constantly going on around us for these 2 days and 1 night and 1.5 nights, or however long that was. But I was dog tired because I was awake for over 40 hours, I think. But I was calm even when my daughter was in her worst sort of pain, and I thought, this isn't looking good. I still was calm and had the peace of God. And I just felt sorry for all those who were crying out there who didn't. Tragic. Anyway, that's all. So my friends who are on my YouTube channel will get this, and you can, well, I might not put it on there actually. I might just put it on Facebook instead, and it's just an update for you. So sad, just so sad. But the Lord is good, and He came to our rescue, and she's on a ward. She's got her own room, and she's got a nice soft bed, and she's now getting meds and a plan in place for treating the Crohn's and everything. So the Lord came and rescued us out of that A&E situation, and she's picking up. She's on the mend. Thank God. that he stepped in, because it's not nice seeing her like that. And I think she was a bit frightened at times as well. So she's on the mend. She still looks a bit pasty and pale and stuff like that, but she looks, she's picking up, and she's starting to eat again after a couple of weeks of not eating. So she's actually started eating today, a small amount of stuff. So thank you for my friends for your prayers, and I'm still dog tired. So yep, take me a few days to recover. But that's basically the update on it all. It's not good out there, guys. So stick close to Jesus, keep praying, and do keep your eye on those that are ill and that you're in contact with, because they're seriously going to need somebody fighting their corner. Everybody in that place over those couple of days and nights needed somebody with them fighting their corner. Seriously, they did. And some did have people with them, and I think some didn't. They were so vulnerable, the ones that didn't, in that place. So there you go. Anyway, that's it.